Jesus.
Wow.
All right. I hope you don't hate my camera. It's a 3-year-old laptop's camera. It is what it is. But yeah, all right. Savannah chat number 2. It's me and Jason today. Thanks for coming on. We got 15 people on. We love that. And we're going to talk about some of the classic liqueurs in our portfolio and move that up front so you can. Hold on. Let me see if I can tilt this down just a little bit. Yeah. So what I'm referring to when I say classic liqueurs is there's a modern style of liqueur. A lot of the stuff that we're focused on, like Chinola would be a good example of a modern liqueur. It's a newer brand based in the Americas at Tiffany. Classic liqueurs are going to be Italian, French, old world in style, and brands that are much, much, much older and have themselves a cult following by them on their own. Keep adding people. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. The point of some of these brands is these are major brands in their own right. They may have a smaller clientele here in the United States, but in Italy, Fernet Branca, you would find this in every single restaurant in the entire country for the most part. Same with Carpano, same with Luxardo. Some of these. We're mostly talking about Italy today, but that's okay. That's kind of the home of a lot of these liqueurs and what their functions are and where you should be selling them and what you should be looking for and saying, hey, Fernet isn't for everybody. That's true. Thank you for complimenting our shirts. I appreciate that, Tracy. So we'll go into the Branca family first. And we have a handful of brands with Branca. We'll start with Fernet Branca. This is based in Milan, Italy. And this is the largest selling Amaro brand in the world. Amaro is the word for bitter. So when we say Amaro, we're talking about a bitter liqueur. It's generally in the digestif category of things. And a competitive set with Fernet would be brands like Amaro Montenegro, Amaro. There's a bunch of
Nonino.
Yep. There's a handful of other Italian Amaros.
Merle's Row makes one as well. Local guys.
Fernet is a particularly bitter style. Fernet is not the family name. The family name here is Branca. What's up?
Bottles are clean.
Good call. Andy's here to help. Fernet itself is the name of the category. Branca is the family name here. Fernet refers to a particular style of Amaro that is a bit more bitter. A lot of Amaro is quite bitter, but is also quite sweet. This is very herbal in its bitterness. Jason, you want to go over a little Branca history?
Sure. Fratelli Branca is the company, parent company name. They've been around for several hundred years. They are a legacy brand in the industry and have been making some of the best liqueurs and vermouth for a long, long time. Fernet Branca is their biggest selling product. Does really well in the U.S. as well as Europe. It's starting to do well in Asia, but in South America and Argentina, it's like the biggest thing down there. They actually have a factory down there to produce it. Again, like how Patrick was saying, Fernet's a very bitter style of Amaro. That Fernet name comes from ferro, which is iron in Italian. They used to use iron rods to impart minerality into this.
Sounds healthy.
Yeah. So kind of a weird process to make it, but it adds like bitterness and like astringency, a lot of like mint. So that's the traditional Fernet Branca. Think of crushingly bitter, little minty finish. And then Branca Menta is its little sister. This was created maybe 100 years ago. It was actually created for an opera singer. The Count Branca, the gentleman behind the family back then, was at a cafe before an opera show, and the opera singer was actually in the cafe. And she was mixing Fernet Branca with mint syrup. And he walked up to her and said, "Hey, I noticed that you're taking my product and adding mint syrup to it. What's the deal with that?" She said, "Well, I use this before every show to warm up my throat." So he thought, what a great idea. Created Branca Menta. The basic difference between Fernet Branca and Branca Menta is it's a little sweeter, way more minty, a bit more palatable. This is a great one to intro people into Amaro if they like mint, obviously. Another great thing to do with it is it's called a half and half. Mix half Fernet Branca with half Branca Menta. This company makes a lot of great products. This is the #1 seller. But they also make Borghetti, the espresso liqueur.
It's early Core 7, January, February Core 7.
Hopefully you're familiar with that. That's
Should be, yes.
one of their top sellings as well, with the advent of the espresso martini being so popular.
Where should they take Fernet and Brancamento? What types of accounts do we sell this to?
So the fun thing about Fernet Branca is it's got a wide range of wide audience. So it started out in the cocktail bar scene. So you had it as like a shot. I think it's mostly consumed as a shot. So you had it in those. It's also in a few classic cocktails like the Toronto, which is basically an old fashioned with a splash of Fernet. It's actually Henry Monty's favorite cocktail, I've been told. So started in those cocktail bars, but then where do cocktail bar employees go to drink afterwards? They go to dive bars. So it translates from your cocktail bar into your dive bar, and anywhere in between. It's actually, I think our biggest market now is Athens. So shout out to the Athens team. Thank you. So college bars.
Derek's picture is right in our faces. Is what we're seeing, just so you guys know.
Yeah. So, but also high-end restaurants, fine dining. This is a classic staple of Italian cuisine and of the Italian bar experience. Yep. It's known for its medicinal qualities. Again, it started out as a medicine, and it is great after a meal. So what it does, all those bitter herbs and roots, they settle your stomach. So this is the perfect digestive.
All right. Fine dining, cocktail bars, obviously dive bars, retail purposes, anywhere that's going to have a decent liqueur, decent Italian. If you see cocktail modifiers, if you see, like I said, if you see Amaro, Montenegro is probably, other than Fernet, the biggest Amaro in the category, in Atlanta at least. So in the Atlanta market. And so yeah, handful of good places. Don't be afraid to show this around. This is an anchor brand. This is a classic product for us.
A lot of people in the bar industry will know it already. So if you haven't shown it, please do.
Next, we'll talk about Branca's vermouths. We have the Carpano line, and that is Carpano. Carpano is fine, but the Italians say Carpano. We have 3 affordable lines. We're just having the one out today. This is the Carpano Classico. This is your entry-level vermouth, not barrel-aged, correct?
All right. It's a lighter in style. This is your perfect kind of all-around workhorse vermouth for your accounts. It's in about $20 a bottle.
Yeah, and for a liter.
And this is great in a Negroni, kind of those lighter cocktails that call for a sweet vermouth. They also have a dry too, which you can use in your martinis, that sort of thing.
And a Bianca, which is a lightly sweetened white vermouth.
So those are kind of our benchmark everyday vermouths that we can go up against everything else with. What are some of the competitive sets?
You'd want to go after Martini Rossi with those. You'd want to have to go after Dolan with those.
Dolan, yeah.
Anything cheaper than that, Cinzano would be good ones to go after those. That's that competitive set. And possibly even into the Coqui Torino is a little bit more of a Carpano competitor or Antica competitor. So yeah, look for those vermouths. Vermouths are in classic cocktail modifiers. We all know that modifiers on a cocktail list tend to sell pretty well. In addition to that, it's not the easiest thing, but it's a good idea to link your base spirits with your modifiers whenever possible. So if you're presenting a sweet vermouth to go into a Negroni or go into a Manhattan or go into a custom cocktail, say, hey, what base spirit are you planning to use? Well, here's a gin. Here's Merle's Row. Here's Citadel. Here's 229. Oh, well, you want to make a Manhattan? Here's a Willet Bourbon. Here's a Willet Rye. Here's a Green River, something to that nature. Pair these together in your presentations, and that way you can kind of link them together. And you can always softly encourage the client to use your products together, saying things like, hey, we love our vermouth. This is the best vermouth in the world, in my opinion. It's excellent in cocktails. It's what you should be using to make your Manhattans. It elevates a Manhattan excessively well. But, we sure would love it if you weren't using Old Forester, because we're not trying to make United more money. We're trying to grow our business with you. So here's a Green River to try with us instead.
The Manhattan is the biggest cocktail out there that uses vermouth in it, and it's also the easiest cocktail to remember. The Manhattan, the area code of Manhattan is 212, and that's the proportions for a Manhattan. So it's 2 of a bourbon or rye, 2 ounces, 1 ounce vermouth, and 2 dashes bitters. 212. Always remember that. You'll be good to go. Speaking of Manhattans, Carpano Antica formula is world-renowned as the vermouth that you use in a Manhattan in a respectable cocktail bar. They invented vermouth in the 1700s. It is still the best sweet vermouth, hands down. This is the king of vermouth. Let anyone who thinks they don't like vermouth taste this. They will change their mind. My pitch is always, look, you're putting a beautiful rye. You're putting Green River rye in a cocktail. That's a lovely bottle of whiskey. Don't use a $5, $10 bottle of vermouth. You're ruining the cocktail. Your cocktail's only as good as the worst ingredient in it. Do not water down your whiskey with a crappy vermouth.
Don't use any bad ingredients.
Use this, and your customers will come back. Antica formula was invented, I think, the 1786. They know what they're doing. This is going to have a lot of bold vanilla flavors, rich, round, sultry, beautiful, beautiful bottle. Let people taste this, and you're going to make a sale.
Let's see, any chat. Any questions?
I would say, little tip with vermouth, guys. This is technically wine. So once these are opened, or really, but even before they're open, make sure they don't get hot or too cold. They're going to spoil just like wine will. So even your bars, please make sure that they keep these in the fridge. They'll last longer. They won't go bad. I think a lot of people have had vermouth that's spoiled, and that's why they think they don't like vermouth. You guys keep these fresh. They'll last for a couple months, especially the reds.
If they're open, keep them cold. They last for a while. And even if they do start to oxidize, generally it's still pretty good. I actually like oxidation in vermouth, and like Chinola can oxidize, and it's pretty good. But if they keep it, if it's open, it needs to stay cold. Generally, with vermouth, similar to other wines, if you refrigerate your red wine overnight, it will last an extra day. And if you don't, anybody have any questions about the Branca family? There are a couple other smaller cellar products that we have in this group, but this is definitely a family that you can show together and show the different product lines of Carpano. There's about 7 or 8 products. Take it to anybody that you think is maybe a little junior in the cocktail world. They're trying to get things figured out. They're maybe not doing things that well. Take them some of these liqueurs and say, hey, this is the stuff that people have always been using in cocktails. This is the good stuff. And if you don't feel like you have the expertise to present these yourselves, once again, tag in one of us. Add in Chris Owendahl potentially, or your DM. Say, hey, I want to present some of the Branca line, but I don't feel that comfortable. I'm not that well educated on it yet. Would you join me for a presentation or two? Of course we will. Reach out to us, get us scheduled. Cool. Let's do some Luxardo.
All right, y'all. Luxardo, another Italian spirits company, been around since at least 1821. The company actually started across the ocean in Croatia. Their original facility was in Croatia, which is kind of on the border with northern Italy. It ended up getting bombed out in World War II, and they moved to their current location about an hour and a half from Venice in northern Italy. They are obviously known for their maraschino liqueur. This is the staple, the staple at any cocktail bar worth a damn. I think several writers have even commented this is the way when you see this on the back bar that a place knows what they're doing with spirits. It is their maraschino liqueur. It says it's a cherry liqueur. It's a lot more than that, y'all. I've been to the facility. I always wondered, why this product tasted the way it does. It's less fruity. It's got more vegetal flavors, and that's because what they do with this is they take giant vats and they fill them basically with these bushes of cherry trees. So they cut, instead of just throwing the fruit in there, they cut the whole branches off with the leaves, the stems, everything. Toss it in these giant barrel vats, let it sit for weeks on end. And what you're left with is this very complex, little bit cherry, but mostly going to have those woody, vegetal, leafy notes in there. This is a staple for cocktails like the Last Word, which is really having a moment now. Gin, Luxardo maraschino, lime. And as well as several other drinks.
Aviation's one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
Any of this, there's a lot of classic cocktails with this. You're not going to improve. It's very difficult for somebody who's doing custom cocktails. You're not making a better cocktail than Aviation. Like no one really does. You're just riffing on different stuff to make it a little different. Anybody that you say, hey, like if they're making cocktails and they haven't bought a bottle of Luxardo maraschino yet, bring that in and say, hey, make a gin cocktail with this. Make a tequila cocktail with this. A lot of these classic drinks, you can sub around the base spirit to different stuff. Tequila's having a moment, as we know. So doing some tequila riffs on some of these classic gin cocktails would be very popular right now.
Absolutely.
Again, a brand that you can take to any of your craft cocktail bars. Anybody that, well, if you're craft cocktail bars or craft cocktail bars, they already have this for sure. But anybody that's attempting to do that, we see a lot of people that are doing cocktails because it's the trendy thing at the moment. They sell easily, but they don't really know what brands to use. They don't really know what to make. This is a brand to help guide them in the right direction. And the competitors for Luxardo Maraschino are much, much smaller brands. Marasca is a brand we used to have. Lazzaroni or something. Lazzaroni makes one. They're tiny. You don't need, like, this is the staple. This is 80%.
Use the original. Don't let people use the fake stuff.
Exactly. Let's talk about their cherries too. There's a lot of cherry competitors. There's Filthy. There's a handful of others. Woodford makes bourbon cherries. None of them are anywhere close to as good as this. They're using Marasca cherries from northern Italy. It's absolutely incredible. It's a $16 jar of cherries. That ends up being about a quarter a cherry. If you get somebody that knows what they're doing, they're buying the big ass cans, which are about $130 now, and those get down to about a dime a cherry. There is really no substitute. Manhattan calls for this. You can put these in an old fashioned. You put these in some of the classic gin cocktails that has maraschino as well. Having a jar of these with you when you're making presentations, and then just at the end be like, hey, try a cherry. Try a cherry. You should be using this instead of what you're using. We have a lot of nice places that I've seen that are like using Filthy and just downgrades. And you say, what are you doing that for? Let's try these. These are just incredibly better. The price is negligible once you get down to the cherry level.
I think the first time you have a Luxardo cherry, you'll never forget it. I think they are by far the best in the business. Again, use the real deal. Don't settle for imitations. And there's nothing like a Manhattan garnished with a Luxardo cherry made with Carpano Antico formula and a lovely rye.
I agree.
Package these things together, get all the placement.
And so basically everything we've done so far are this is the core brand. This is the original. Carpano Antico is the original sweet vermouth. Luxardo Maraschino is that. Fernet and Brancamenta, those are the Amaro. These are the originals. Here are two. Now we're getting into something where we're kind of going after a different market leader with Luxardo Aperitivo and Luxardo Bitter, which are the Aperol style and the Campari style, respectively. And Aperitivo, these are very similar. You'll notice their colors are similar. The major difference is Aperitivo is about half the alcohol and is a little bit sweeter, a little bit lighter. This is good, and the classic drink is an Aperitivo Spritz. Hi, Manny, will let you in. Which is Aperitivo and sparkling wine or club soda. It's very good in like a long drink. If you put an ounce of Aperitivo in the bottom of a tall glass with ice and fill it up with long drink, it's delicious. You're kind of making it's a Spritz riff, but it's almost a mini Negroni riff as well. Very, very nice. And again, coming after Aperol. So other than the Aperol Spritz, which is a classic cocktail, there's plenty of custom drinks that you can do with this. I personally prefer my Negronis with an Aperitivo over a bitter. It lowers the alcohol a little bit, lowers the bitterness a little bit, which I prefer. Whereas the Campari style, the bitter liqueur is what is classically in that. Moving right along into Luxardo Bitter, this is your classic Campari. A little bit more oomph to it, a little bit more alcohol, a little more bitter. And this is, again, in a Negroni is the classic drink, which is a very popular cocktail these days. And can be riffed on with mezcal, can be riffed on with whiskey, make a Boulevardier. These two plus basically any base spirit you want.
Equal parts.
Yep, you're going to make a custom drink. Though a lot of people do a little bit more gin when they make their Negronis these days. Go an ounce and a half,
Old.
3/4, and then back to the ounce there. Excuse me. Any questions about the Luxardo line so far? Again, everything else so far is the market leader. These two are what you're going to want to go after.
Aperol.
National, Aperol, Empire with bitter.
And the quality's here, y'all. It's Luxardo. It's a well-known historic brand. They make everything as good or better. And the price, again, is going to be a few dollars less, if not several dollars more. So you see Aperol, Luxardo Aperitivo. You see Campari, Luxardo Bitter. Take those spots.
Good for cocktails as well. We got Luxardo's espresso liqueur, again, kind of in that Borghetti mindset. We have several of these now. This is excellent, excellent quality made by Luxardo. Great. Again, for cocktails, everything we're doing here today is for cocktails. Even in the retail space, the people buying these are going home and making cocktails with them. So it's all about cocktails. That's how you drive business. If you have somebody that's buying a Luxardo bottle espresso and they're not putting on their cocktail list, it's going to be a dusty bottle on their back bar, and that doesn't really do anything for anybody. So what we want to do is push people towards using these products, saying, here are some cocktail ideas. And again, another instance where linking Jason or myself or Chris or your DM in and saying, hey, how can we use these? How can I make you a cocktail? Can I have the bartender make the cocktail with these? Say, hey, make an espresso martini with Luxardo or Borghetti. Show how better quality it is than just using the hot or the cold brew coffee that they may have there and making a relatively poor cocktail. These are significant upgrades in that regard.
I want you guys to be comfortable knowing that we have these heritage brands that have been staples in cocktail bars and in these cocktails for 100+ years. They're in the portfolio. Don't be afraid to pull them. Don't be afraid to show them. And again, like Guilfoil was saying, if you need help, feel free to call us. I can walk you through the sales call or come join you. Be comfortable selling these things. We have the best products in the world.
It's one of the reasons why we want to do this, because in a lot of our base spirits, there's, other than say Tito's, there's we're dealing with a lot of craft brands that are going after the major competitors. We're spending a lot of time targeting Himador or Jose Cuervo or whatever that with our tequila portfolio, which are craft brands, which are smaller brands, which I know you guys get told every day, hey, we're looking for major brands here. We're not, people think things people know. These are the things that people know in these categories. These are the market leaders. And we have these because we were on top of by necessity, basically, we were on top of the cocktail game very early because these brands were accessible to us because other people weren't paying attention to them yet. So we've got the market leaders in these categories. We need to make sure that we have these products in the accounts that are buying their competitors. Last one, I guess. Any questions so far? I might not be looking at the questions because I don't have much screen. All things Luxardo will be a very big upcoming focus. Very nice. What is the coloring? What is the coloring in Luxardo? It's generally, what's it? It's
don't bring that up to your customers. It's really just red food dye, probably. FD&C red 40 on here. It says on the back, Nate, if you really want to go in there. I think Nate wants us to talk about the bugs.
There were bugs classically that there were bug used for their pigments that originally flavored Campari. That is no longer the case. Everybody in that category is using food dye. So that's just not something to bring up. If somebody's like, is it food dyed? Like, they're all food dyed. It's like talking about vodka. Are they distilling their own vodka? No one's distilling their own vodka. Everybody sources the base spirit of vodka. Literally everybody. So there's always a good thing to bring up. Like, some people talk about like Tito's, like, oh, well, they're sourcing their base. Like, every vodka producer is sourcing their base. It's just something you have to have in your background. Don't bring it up unless it gets brought up. Add to Bravazzi, okay. Hemingway daiquiri, sure. Good.
Hemingway daiquiri is lovely.
It's a great cocktail.
Grapefruit Luxardo added to the classic daiquiri.
All right, and then last we'll do another one that is a little newer brand to us. We had probably 6 or 7, 5 years, somewhere around there. Not something we've had forever, but is Galliano. And Galliano is a product of Holland and is used in a couple of classic cocktails, most notably the Harvey Wallbanger, which is a relatively mediocre drink because orange juice just isn't that good in cocktails. But it's a fun drink to have. It's got the tall bottle. This is actually the 375. The 750 is, double the height. It really stands up on a back bar and is a fun product to let people know you have in a classic cocktail bar. One of my favorite drinks I ever had from Home and Finch actually has Galliano in it. Anise.
Vanilla.
Anise, like a yellowy anise, vanilla, sweet flavor profile of that.
Great with tonic, too. But, Harvey Wallbanger. It's OJ, vodka, Galliano. Funny name.
Weird
said the
drink.
70s are coming back. That's a 70s cocktail. Pitch hit.
There's a lot of ways to make that drink a little better. Our old friend Jeff Banks made one that was a good bit better than the classic.
But Galliano also does an espresso. You'll see a theme with the Italian liqueurs. There's an espresso involved. And they do an aperitivo. Yeah, that's kind of like in between Aperol and Campari. Beautiful products as well.
Anybody, I don't think I reminded everybody that this is designed to be casual. If you want to unmute, if you have something that you want to ask, it's designed to be us chatting with you. So anybody has any questions or wants to bring up another brand, we got 5 more minutes before we need to shut things off. Anything else you want us to go over or talk about or add to the brands that we had? Any other liqueur? Oh, we should mention like Alessio, which is Luxardo's.
Tempest.
Excuse me. Tempest Fusion and Alessio, those are a little more expensive and a little bit more, let's say, new age. They are remakes of very, very classic liqueurs by a man named John Troya. He does the Tempest Fusion line. Many of you have probably had a decent amount of success selling that cacao liqueur in the Christmas season. It's very, very popular. They have a beautiful banana liqueur as well. It's like a cooked bananas Foster flavor profile. It's absolutely excellent. There's nothing else like it. Every other banana liqueur tastes like underripe banana mixed with suntan lotion. That one's super different. Very, very good. That's a little bit of a more expensive liqueur line. A lot of those bottles are in the mid-30s. So definitely you're going to go to people that understand that you're paying a little more for a premium product there instead of folks that are going to be like, I don't know, I can get banana liqueur for $18. Like, all right, yeah, well, it's not really the same type of product. What else?
I think we about covered it. Oh, the only vermouth we haven't covered in the book is La Copa. That's from the Gonzalez Bias family that makes beautiful sherries. They actually use sherry in their vermouth. If you got somebody that's kind of more familiar with vermouth, they would probably love to try those. There's something kind of new and different, a little bit of an oxidized flavor to them.
Derek Wickersham,
nice, of course.
Derek Wickersham, a.k.a. Mike Glover, wants us to talk about Malort. He must have possessed you in that moment. Mike loves Malort.
So does Derek.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
So the only two people I know that love Malort. That's a New World liqueur. It's made out of Chicago, but it's got a very Nordic feel to it, like a classic Nordic liqueur.
Incredibly bitter.
It is not fun.
If people know about it, they'll buy it. Don't taste them on it.
Any Chicago themed bar you want to go to, any dive bar is good with that. A lot of if you're selling Fernet decently well in a restaurant, Malort would be the next thing to go with.
Think of Malort as Chicago's Fernet.
Yeah.
So dive bar, people in the know.
McNabb mentions Bitter Bianco, which is a really topical liqueur we probably could have brought.
Yeah, that would have been a good one.
There's a white version of this that's very similar to Suze. Is a classic Italian. Is Suze Italian?
Yeah, Northern Italian.
Suze is a white liqueur, and it's a little bit more approachable, a little bit more floral, a little less bitter than the bitter style, and it's very, very, very nice in the spring and summertime. It adds a lot of florality into like a white Negroni, which is generally done with white vermouth, a white bitter, and gin.
Yeah, so
really
basically,
nice
if you want to use Campari and not make the drink red, Luxardo Bitter Bianco is the way to go.
True, it's really not that bitter though. Nate thinks it's not that bitter.
What?
Malort. I don't know.
Nate, it's more bitter than you are, and that's saying something.
I describe like Plantaray pineapple. One of the ways I describe and pitch that is it's a great shot for people you like. If you like somebody and you want to buy them a shot, give them Plantaray pineapple. If you don't like them, give them Malort.
Exactly. Their tagline is one of their taglines is how to unfriend someone in public, in real life.
Can be great for infusing. Well, you would know.
Infusing what exactly?
All right, infusing your liver. All right, well, cool. Thanks for doing this again, guys. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you've gathered some education level. Again, we're willing to do these in person with your accounts. Please reach out. We're happy to work with you. We love working with you guys. Most of us save time to work with you and then are slow a particular day if no one reaches out. Yeah, next one will be in a month. I think Joanna wants to step up and take one, which would be great. And anything else?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, great weekend.
Make your hot shots, do some work this afternoon, and have a cocktail.
On you.
Yeah, all right. Everyone's leaving. I can stop talking.